friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Chase, and today I will be reviewing the January 25th edition of AEW Dynamite, which featured Bryan Danielson versus Brian Cage, as well as a very special match between Mark Briscoe and Jay Lethal. As always, I'll be giving you my hot takes on the matches and angles from the night, as well as telling you what I was the biggest fan of on the show. But before we get to all that, make sure you give me a follow on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, all at Stephanie M. Chase. Also check out my OnlyFans merch, which is linked below, and check out my Patreon if you'd like to support this channel. And most importantly, don't forget to subscribe. Yes, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to be the first to know when new videos drop. Did you know that 50% of people watching my videos aren't subscribed? So what are you doing? Hit that subscribe button. And while you're here, why not check out some of the videos that I recently uploaded? This week, I uploaded my video showing off all the WCW and WWE action figures and memorabilia that I collected as a kid, as well as my collection of Silvervision VHS tapes. I also interviewed AEW host RJ City. This is one of my favorite interviews I've ever done. We covered so much about RJ's career and a lot of other fun stuff too, so please go and watch that. And I will be live on here on Thursday, very late at night, to preview the WWE Royal Rumble with Tyler Sage. So please watch live if you can, or catch up on the video on this channel, which will be up straight after the live stream. Now on to the show. So this edition of AEW Dynamite was brought to us from the RUPP Arena in Kentucky, home of Sean Ross Sapp. It's really, really blue. This arena was really, really blue. And it kind of gave the new Dynamite set a bit of an odd feel, I thought. There was just something so strange about it. The blue that you had in the actual set, and then the blue seats in the arena and everything. And then they had these really like sparse looking little like AEW banners that were hung up to hide something, I don't know, on the hard cam side. I thought it was just a pretty strange arena that gave maybe not the best effect to the show. Now, of all the ways I thought Dynamite would start, halfway through Judas wasn't one of them, but it did. We opened with Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara making their way to the ring with Daniel Garcia by their side. The whole removal of pants gimmick is staying. This was a very enjoyable match. The fans are definitely behind Starks and Andretti. But they really hate Sammy. Like, they hate Sammy, not just in a I don't like a heel way. They do not like Sammy Guevara at all, and I feel like he does nothing to help himself. Even how Sammy performs in the ring, I think, exemplifies the stuff that people don't like about him from how they perceive how he is as a person outside the ring. Like, he does these spectacular moves, like showing off, and usually it would be a good thing to see such athleticism, but there's like no psychology behind it at all. He just does it like a little kid showing you everything he can do and expecting massive amounts of praise. Also, during the match, he just randomly said to the camera, "Love you, Ty," so he's a wife guy. But I just think the story that they're trying to tell with Starks, with Andretti, with Jericho, with Garcia, is really good. And the spot that Sammy's occupying, I just kind of wish someone else was in it. At the end of the match, Starks hit a Rochambeau on the floor on Jericho, and they're lucky they caught that. Guevara tried a springboard cutter. He missed. Then Garcia smacked Andretti with the baseball bat. Of course, Aubrey wasn't looking, and then Guevara hit the GTH and got the pin on Andretti. So Andretti, they're taking his first pinfall loss in AEW. But yeah, good match overall. I think it was good for Jericho and Guevara to get the win here and maybe move the storyline on a little bit more. But I think the people I'm most interested in it are really like seeing Starks elevated, and then also the dynamic between Jericho and Garcia. We then had an absolutely beautiful tribute video for Jay Briscoe, showing the Briscoe brothers through their rise of Ring of Honor, and also some really beautiful clips of Jay's family and his daughters in there as well. This was tremendously well done, and I'll put a link to it in the description to make sure you all check it out. Next up, Darby Allin defeated Buddy Matthews to retain the TNT title. Darby was out there with Sting. Buddy was out there with fashion icon Julia Hart. Darby, this is his fourth successful title defense in 4 weeks. And he's also just back from a match in Japan, teaming with Sting against the Great Muta. This match was really good. I'd kind of forgotten about Matthews as an in-ring act, but he was impressive. During the match, we had the lights going out. Thought it was kind of oddly executed. It almost seemed like a botch until they came on, and Brody King and Malachi Black were on the ramp. They were looking at Sting, and then Ortiz came out with a kendo stick. If you haven't been watching Rampage, Ortiz, House of Black, and Kingston have a whole storyline going on that Eddie Kingston really shouldn't be resigned to, but anyway, so they all brawled up the ramp, and then Julia followed. She had to hold her hat when she ran. That was pretty funny. In the end, Matthews tried a pump handle driver, but Allin countered it into code red, and then Matthews tried a superplex. Allin countered it into scorpion death drop. But then Matthews was like caught on the rope, so he couldn't get the 3, but then he hit the coffin drop to retain the title. So yeah, good match. Really good to see Darby taking on lots of challengers. Speaking of which, then Tony Schiavone came out to the ring to talk to him, but then we had a video of Samoa Joe, who looked like he just wrestled or ran a 5K. Obviously filmed like the week before or something. Joe said he was coming to take everything from Allin and take back what's rightfully his, the TNT Championship. So we're actually going to have that match next week, and it will be a no holds barred match. We've seen Darby versus Joe before, but I'm not mad about seeing it again. They are really good together. They have really great chemistry. So this is a very fun match to have next week. We then got a really good highlight video on Adam Cole's return. It was just showing him training. He was looking at a sign for Revolution. So it looks like that's going to be his in-ring return. And I just thought it was great, like building up Cole finally as the baby face that he was always meant to be. Up next, we had Jungle Hook, Jungle Boy Jack Perry, and Hook teaming again, defeating Ethan Page and Matt Hardy with Stokely and Isaiah Cassidy. Now, I believe I say this every time that Matt Hardy is involved in a storyline, but it's never good. It's always about a contract, or it's just him like workshopping, teasing character changes. And they did a promo at the top of the ramp before this match, and I don't think Stokely, Isaiah, or Ethan came off good here at all. The Matt Hardy stuff is just a total time sucker from whatever show it's on. I really love Jungle Hook. It's a great pairing. It's for the ladies. So because of that, I would keep them so far away from Matt Hardy contracts, anything with the word family or office in it at all. It wasn't a bad match. We had Hardy hitting a side effect on Jungle Boy, but then he was about to do a twist of fate, but Ethan Page demanded he got the tag. Then Jungle Boy countered a Page twist of fate into a snare trap, and then Hardy like lightly reached for the tag, but Hook pulled him off the apron and Page tapped out. Jungle Hook, excellent. As for Hardy, Page, Stokely, I barely know what's going on here. Every Matt Hardy storyline is just the same crap of contracts and factions, and everything is just, please. And no, I'm not into seeing broken Matt Hardy. That will not make things better at all. Then we had Family Therapy with the Acclaimed, Daddy Ass, and the Guns. So this wasn't comedic at all. It wasn't kind of like the other therapies that we've seen in wrestling. It was just really a serious sit down with Austin and Colton talking about what a bad father Billy Gunn had been. And then when he had kind of time to rectify things, he instead sided with the Acclaimed. So yeah, it was all pretty serious. And then the Guns just said what would make them happy was the AEW Tag Team titles. And then they stormed out. Yeah. It was short. It was kind of somber. I usually like, everything that the Acclaimed is in, but it's usually highly entertaining. This kind of just walked a weird line between slight comedy and drama, but I don't really think you can truly convey a serious dramatic angle if you're using the whole family therapy thing, because it's so obviously just nothing like real therapy. I mean, it lasted 5 minutes, for a start. Like it was a weird one. It was a weird one. Okay, so backstage we had Renee with Hangman. She asked him about what he said last week about what was next. He didn't want to talk about that. He said he can't help but look back to Ohio. Him and Moxley are 1-1 in their series. And when they're in Ohio next week, he wants to knock out Jon Moxley. And then Wheeler Yuta, who's just like hanging around, he then comes in and says that Paige will have to fight him first on Rampage. Paige asks Yuta why he thinks what happened to Moxley won't happen to him. Thought this was kind of strange, considering Hangman's comments last week. I'm not really sure where they're going with this now that he wants to actively knock out Moxley again. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if it ends in like a double knockout or something. However, I am glad to see the Moxley Page series continue. Next, we had Bryan Danielson defeating Brian Cage, who is with Prince Nana. They'd been paid off by MJF next week. This was good because Danielson got the most he could out of Cage. The story was about Cage zoning in on the arm of Bryan Danielson after promising MJF that he'd break it. In the end, it looked like Cage could win. He got a buckle bomb, a power bomb. He tried for a third, but Danielson got a roll up for a flash pin, so that was pretty clever. But then post-match, Cage was just attacking Danielson. Then MJF walked out. Cage put Danielson's arm through a chair and then posted it. And then MJF beat down Danielson. He was about to Pillmanize his arm when Takeshita came out to make the save, and then MJF ran away. So yeah, pretty good match considering Brian Cage was the opponent. No offense to Brian Cage. But then we saw Renee backstage with Bryan Danielson, and he was with the doctor, Michael Sampson. This bit wasn't a big fan of. Doc Sampson clearly didn't go to Juilliard. The acting was not good. Danielson just kind of freaked out and was basically like, "You can't stop me from wrestling." It's interesting with Danielson. I feel like this might be a controversial take, but I just don't believe that he really wants to be champion, and that might be me kind of being clouded by how he is in real life. I think, to me, Bryan Danielson wants to wrestle. He doesn't necessarily want to be world champion. So I find that what MJF is doing, he's basically doing a version of the Labors of Jericho, but with Danielson. But I think in the first instance, it was like all these hurdles had to be overcome because Jericho wanted the match with MJF so badly. And here it's like, I don't know, Danielson just wants to wrestle. He's getting to have all these great, matches every week. And I don't feel that inside him that he wants to be the champion. And I guess it's maybe better now that they're putting these obstacles in front of him, with him being injured going into matches and stuff. But yeah, I'll see how it plays out. But I feel like they're kind of maybe sacrificing some real storytelling or really building up something between the two guys for us just being treated to great Bryan Danielson matches every week. So then we had Ruby Soho defeating Toni Storm. On the way out, they had an inset promo from Toni talking about homegrown idiots. And then Ruby was her saying that she'd worked her ass off to get to this spot in AEW and won't look down on the other women. On commentary, Tony Schiavone was saying this line has been drawn between the AEW originals and the ladies who didn't get their start here, which is just weird comment to make because Ruby Soho is in the match. Literally both women in the match did not get their start in AEW. It started so slow and the crowd seemed really quiet throughout it. I love Toni Storm and Ruby, but I'm just not feeling any of this. It's just it feels just like Saraya didn't get over as a face, and so then they're they try and then they're okay, let's turn her, and we have to turn Toni with her. And I don't think Toni suits being a heel as much as a baby face, and this still seems all stuff been done to serve no one but Saraya. And then you have Jamie doing an amazing job as champion. Then you have great women on the rise, like Willow, who's really getting over, and it's just such a disappointing, I think, use of great talent. And then the ending came because Britt Baker's music played and she walked out, and then that distracted Storm enough for Soho to hit the Destination Unknown and get the win. So they used this totally like WWE trope of being distracted by someone's music. I don't know. I don't think this one really worked, or is they're yet to really find their footing with this whole thing, and it just makes me worry about some of the people involved, like Jamie, even Britt as well, and Toni Storm. Then we had a promo from MJF. He was in like this dark room. He talked a bit about Takeshita, and then he said that physical pain is fleeting, but mental pain will leave a scar. And then he announced who Danielson's opponent would be next week, and it's going to be Timothy Thatcher, who we saw clips of in Noah. And a lot of guys that I know will need to have some hankies on hand while watching this match next week. I thought this was pretty cool. A lot of you will also know Thatcher from NXT. And yeah, it's just cool to see them bring someone in unexpected to face Danielson. And then we had the main event. So we had Taz and Tony Schiavone tagging out on commentary, where Excalibur was then joined by Ian Riccaboni and Caprice Coleman. And then we also had Bobby Cruz doing the ring introductions. Firstly, I think it is so great that Mark Briscoe is finally getting the chance to wrestle on AEW Dynamite, and of course it should have happened a lot sooner than this, and of course the Briscoes should have always been on Dynamite, but this match was so special, and unlike anything else, that any other kind of match that I've ever like really talked about. Jay Lethal was Mark's handpicked opponent because of the history that they have together in Ring of Honor. When Jay came out, you could see how emotional he was. He had Sanjay Dutt with him on the ramp, who just gave him a hug, and then left him to walk to the ring. Then when Mark came out, you could just feel like the amazing amount of love from the crowd towards him. He came out with both of the tag team titles, and he was announced as the co-champion. So it was just like from the get-go, like such an emotional watch, and just seeing like the look on Jay's face, like as it started when the two of them were face to face in the ring. It felt as if Jay, like, he was kind of overwhelmed by this situation, it was as if like he wanted to like hold back, but Mark totally just wanted to have a good old-fashioned fight to honor his brother. And that element, like story of the match wise, was just told so well when Lethal like set up Briscoe on the timekeeper's table at one point and just kind of looked like, I don't want to do this, but if I have to. And then Mark ended up getting off the table, and he later put Lethal on the table and hit the froggy bow, and the fans were just chanting, "This is awesome." And Mark won in the best possible way. After a few attempts, he hit the J Driller. And it was just such a overwhelmingly emotional moment. Mark then looked into the camera and told his family to keep their heads up, and told his brother Jay that he loved him. And then we saw a lot of the AEW locker room, especially those involved with a Ring of Honor, come out in the ramp. You had like Adam Cole there, Samoa Joe, Dalton Castle, lots of people, and Tony Khan as well. And Mark was walking up the ramp with the two belts as they showed an image of Jay on the screen, and everyone was clapping. It was a really wonderful piece of television, and it was, it was 100% real. It was one of those moments where wrestling, what's happening in the ring, is completely real. Like, this is a guy who lost not just his tag team partner, his brother, in there with someone he's had this great history with, and just you could just feel all these different emotions through the screen, and from the crowd as well. And huge props to Ian and Caprice on commentary, who did such a great job of not only talking, throughout the match about the Briscoes, their history, how special Jay was, but also weaving in things about what we were seeing in front of us, and weaving through even kind of character things about Mark, saying that he was like the more strategic one and stuff. And I thought Excalibur did a great job as well. And he ended with a really nice line about how even if you don't know it, the Briscoes have influenced the wrestling that you've been watching over the past 20 years. And so, yeah, I think everyone just did such an amazing job under the worst circumstances possible. It's like a match that you never want it to have to happen, and but they handle everything so well. It was so classily done. It was so wonderful. It was just such a wonderful moment of everyone. It felt like the whole just wrestling community coming together and getting to celebrate Jay Briscoe, which people have, we got the graphic last week, and we had all the reports throughout the week of why it was just that and what was going on. But it felt like everyone got this great moment to just really like breathe and let out their emotions to celebrate Jay. And now the 3-hour tribute show to Jay has gone up on YouTube, and it has the matches that were taped last week after Dynamite, as well as some classic Ring of Honor matches. So definitely go and check that out, and I'll link to that in the description. So instead of saying who I was the biggest fan of this week, I'm just gonna give props and shout out and love to Mark Briscoe and the rest of the Pugh family once again, because they're still really in my thoughts, and I will keep the link to the fundraiser in the description like last week. So that's all from me. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to give me a follow on Twitter at Stephanie and Chase, and on Instagram and TikTok there too. And go check out my Patreon, and please subscribe if you haven't already to this channel. And I would very much recommend, if you want to laugh and a good time, to watch my interview with RJ City. Until next time, bye.